Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Person Behind the Profile series. So I'm really excited to have Michael Lane here with me tonight. Michael is the CEO of Success Resources. It's great to have you here. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Amy. Pleasure to be a part of the show.
You're so welcome. For those of you that are just joining us, I would absolutely love to hear where you're coming in from. I know we get a bunch of people from around the world. So type in the chat, let us know where you are coming in from around the world, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon for you today. And while you do that, I'm just going to introduce you to Michael, because for some of you, you might have heard of Michael before, you might not have. And I have his bio here because I have a memory like Dory the fish out of Finding Nemo. And so I'm pretty forgetful. And I didn't want to miss anything because, Michael, you've done quite a bit in your career. So just for those of you that are getting to know Michael, Michael is a successful entrepreneur. He's run 9 different businesses. His current business that he runs is the CEO of Success Resources. He's done over $1.75 billion in sales throughout those businesses as well. And he's very passionate about the entrepreneur space in Australia and also globally as well. The reason for bringing Michael on tonight is really to talk around joint ventures. And Michael has done 560 joint ventures and even more than that, I think. And some of those relationships have been with local celebrities and global celebrities and entrepreneurs that you're probably quite familiar with, like Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Sara Blakely, Gary Vaynerchuk, Sir Richard Branson, Robert Kiyosaki, and so many more. So welcome, Michael. It is my pleasure to have you here tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be on, and it's good to be talking about joint ventures. I haven't done a talk on joint ventures for a while, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. It's great to have you. And I guess, for those of, the business owners that are listening to this, when it comes to joint ventures, what are some of the things that they should be thinking of? And, why are joint ventures really important and quite key when it comes to business?
Yeah, look, joint ventures is an interesting term. For the people out there, it's an opportunity for you to co-venture or do some kind of strategic partnership with somebody else who hopefully has a piece of the puzzle that you don't have, or have clients that you would love to do a deal with. So a joint venture, it's a very broad term now, and there's very different components to the term joint venture. But look, I did business for a long time just off my own bat, and it was kind of like all up to me. And if I can't make it work, it lives and dies with my input and my strategy. Then I quickly realized that there's some other people out there who can bring amazing value when it comes to sales and marketing, when it comes to strategy, when it comes to having an audience. So, there's varying degrees, and I think it's a great way to scale your business. Whether that's, you've got your great product or service, you know how to fulfill that. Your customer service is fantastic. Everyone loves it, but you need to put more people in the funnel. So rather than just going and finding more dollars to put on Facebook, how do you go find somebody who's got a very similar demographic that you need to see if you can, do some kind of joint venture which has a win-win-win, a win for you, a win for the partner, and ultimately a win for the client. So, joint ventures has been the backbone of my success. And, to be able to do some pretty cool joint ventures with some pretty cool people has come down to learning the strategy, understanding how you've got to make sure there's 3 wins. Typically in business, Amy, the business owner who goes out there is looking first and foremost to have a win themselves so they can continue their business and obviously provide a great product or service, but they're not thinking about the competition. They're not thinking about other people. Hopefully by the end of tonight's session, I will share enough that people go, rather than thinking of competing against all these other people, how do we collaborate? How do we maybe look at this as that win-win-win so we all have a benefit and we make it a bit easier? The thing that I stress, Amy, is that joint ventures are just easier. Do you mean there's less drama, there's less stress, because not everything relies on you as the business owner. So, as we unpack this tonight, hopefully there'll be some people, and if they're want more information on this, or they've got something they don't really get it, they can always message me and I'll try and help them. But hopefully by the end of tonight, people will go home and go, wow, okay, I need to find 3 potential joint venture partners that I can start to work with this year, so that coming into 2022, they might have one of those who are ready to go and ready to do something.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I love the attitude of making it a win-win-win as well, because I think sometimes in business, we can have those blinkers on. We can get so laser focused sometimes into what we're doing. And sometimes it's a matter of taking off those blinkers. And as you said, looking at some of the people that we have around us, in our network that can complement what we're doing as well, and creating those win-win-win joint venture scenarios, which I think is really awesome. And I'd love to hear from you as well, Michael, if you can take me right back. You've done so many of these now, but talk to me about what that first joint venture was like for you, and what was that decision like, going from, okay, I'm running my own race in business, I've got this sorted, I'm in my own lane, to then starting to introduce people into your business as joint venture partners. Like, how was that sort of shift for you in the beginning?
Well, it's a great question. I've never been asked this. It's so cool that we're going through this, right? So
Yeah.
my very first business was a strategic joint venture, and I had no idea it even was. So let me unpack that for you, right?
Yeah.
I'm 19. I start a business. My father ran car dealerships. So he ran big brands like Ford and Toyota, and he would run the dealership. And I went to him one day, and I'm the type of kid that was always in the school holidays, I'm coming down to the dealership. I'm tinkering. I'm like, where's all the money made? And my father said the money's actually made in service department, not in selling the cars. Sometimes the cars have a couple of grand in them. So when I realized that that was the profit center. So I came up with a business with a mate and my brother, and we went door knocking, and we started to sell in the neighborhood. It's a bit like if you think of a Scoop-On or Groupon voucher. Again, I was ahead of my time. And on the voucher, it would have had 2 car services, wheel alignment, oil change, and you got everything on there for $160. The deal I did with the dealership was, I keep the 160, you get the client. And me and my friends, I started hiring my friends. We were knocking on doors, selling these, because again, every dealership can take any car. It's just typically you think, if I've got a Toyota, I've got to go to a Toyota dealership. So it was the service manager who once said, Michael, we are loving this. The average client comes in and there's an upsell of $760 per client. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it. That was my first joint venture. I had no idea it was a strategic partnership. But again, for people at home, I'm no mechanic. I'm no good even with my own car, but I know how to sell the market.
Can fix a business, but not a car. Hey, Michael.
That's it. I'm good in one or two little areas. That's it. So that was the first one that I did. Skip forward a couple of years, and it was now a business partner that I have. And he said, you need to learn about joint ventures. I was like, oh my God, I've got to figure all this out. I was 23, and I quickly listened to a gentleman called Jay Abraham, an amazing marketing genius. And he talked about joint ventures. And I listened to a resource that everyone on here must go listen. Tony Robbins interviewed Jay Abraham, Power Talk. It will change your life if you want to figure out joint ventures. So I've gone from 19, starting a business where I strategically partnered with somebody who they had the skill set and I had a skill set on my side, a great joint venture. Then when I got more into business in like mid-20s, I started to use these principles. So that's kind of how it all started. And I look back and go, most people actually have some form of joint venture. They just don't really know about it. And it might be in a service component or a supply chain component. But by the end of tonight, hopefully people will start to look at it as a joint venture around sales and marketing is where you're going to get your growth and your scale. So that's 21 years ago now, Amy, but my first joint venture came a long, long time ago.
And I love that. It's almost like you sort of stumbled into it by accident. And I think it's, sometimes it's having that relationship driven kind of mindset that I think really helps in those scenarios, because you weren't really thinking about it from a strategic joint venture point of view. It was kind of like, well, hey, how can we help each other win, and creating those win-win-wins, as you mentioned before, which I absolutely love. So that all sounds awesome. That sounds like an absolute dream, Michael, to have sort of landed in that space. But I know for some people, it can get a little complex, depending on, the size of your business and what you're doing and the complexity of the deal. And so what are some of the key mistakes and what are some of the key perhaps challenges that you've maybe experienced or you've seen others that have experienced in the space when it comes to creating a really good joint venture?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important to identify what are your strengths as a joint venture partner? What are the things you do really well? What are the things that is world class and that that if you partner with somebody, you've got this piece of the puzzle and you own it better than anyone, right?
Yeah.
Then you need to figure out and go, well, what piece of the puzzle am I missing? Where's the scale part that I just can't get or that I'm not built for? Too many entrepreneurs are failing because they try and do all pieces of a business. I quickly realized, Amy, the best use of me is actually putting joint ventures together, getting that kind of strategic growth. It's not being at an event and ticking off people's names. It's not being on the phone selling tickets. It's not checking the marketing copy. It's my thing that I really enjoy and where I get most value for our business is putting deals together. So if you're listening to this, write this down. What is the skill set that you bring to this partnership? What are you world class at, right? You got to delegate the rest or joint venture the other components. So once you've done your list, here's what I'm great at. Here's what I know I can deliver world class. On the other side of that list is all the stuff that you either don't like or doesn't come as easy, or let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, it's I need more marketing, I need more leads, right? Yeah. So you then need to build an avatar. Who's the perfect company that I should be partnering with, right? Here's an old strategy. It's a very old, great example of a joint venture. You go buy a beautiful European car. Let's say it's Mercedes-Benz. You go pick it up. It's got the bow on it. And on the front seat is a hamper with fine chocolate. And maybe if it's a lady picking it up, it might have some moisturizer and all those kind of things. And it will say, this is supplied by Joe Blogg's, massage center, only a few doors down. And then you kind of get that and you go, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And hopefully somebody comes in and goes, hey, I got the gift basket that had $50 off my first pampering session. And that's a traditional sort of example, right? An old example. Yep. But again, you need to identify who's got your target audience. We know that a lady who just bought a beautiful Mercedes probably wants to go get a manicure, a pedicure, a facial or something. The demographic is very succinct.
Yeah.
So you need to identify who's your demographic. What are they going to do? Do they have the means to invest in ongoing massages? If you just bought a Mercedes, maybe you do. So identifying the demographic of who's got your audience is key. So once you've kind of got some of those ground rules, you can go, wow, I now know there's 5 key companies I should be talking to. After you identify those, you can start to go, well, I now need to figure out my pitch. How do I get these people enrolled in, doing this with me, and what's the benefit for them if we make this work? So that's a bit of a crash course on what are the first few steps that you got to do to really see what you've got, see what value you can bring the other joint venture partner, and then ultimately how the client's going to win and continue to come back to you and the joint venture partner.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because I think sometimes we can get very, very focused on knowing who our ideal client is or who our ideal customer is. And we, can get very focused around that. But it's actually sort of translating that into, hang on a minute, I can take that same application and apply it to who would be a great strategic partner, who would be a great joint venture partner, exactly how you just described there, and thinking, okay, well, what is it that I have to offer them, and what can I bring to the table that's going to add value to them as a first step? So I absolutely love how you just summed that up. I thought that was great.
And there's one more thing. And again, for your audience, I want to make sure there's some scale here, right? Because that's a great sole trader joint venture.
Yep.
Let's put on our $1 million, mindset right now.
Yeah.
I want to share with you one of the most iconic joint ventures I've ever experienced, and it was not mine. I was an avid learner, listener, commentator. I just love this deal, right? And I want people to start to think about this. There's a company called Menulog. We all know Menulog, right?
Yeah.
Menulog, the founder had 60% market share in Australia, doing really well. If you thought in 2017, if I'm going to order home delivery, everyone thought Menulog, right?
Yep.
Uber,
I can even hear the jingle in my head right now.
Yes, me too, actually. But this is before Uber, Deliveroo came in. The owner of that business could see there was a company, and this is key for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Who can buy my business? That's what everyone should be thinking, right? This gentleman found a company who was going to different parts and different countries in Europe and buying up. And he knocked on their door, not physically, but on email, and said, hey, I'd love to catch up with you and figure out if Australia is something you'd be interested in. Long story short, he flew over there. The company, a multi-billion-dollar company, said, we love where you're at. We think that your market is undervalued. It was about $1 billion market valuation at the time.
Yeah.
They said, we can see home delivery being massive. If you can go away, get 90% market share, we will buy you, we'll buy you cash, and you'll be very happy. So here's where the joint venture kicks in. He goes home and he goes, who are my biggest competitors? All right, we're at 60, they're at 32.
Yep.
He's like, if I just keep competing with them, we're both going to spend tens of millions of dollars, and I may never get there.
Mm-hmm.
Or he can start to think strategically and go, what if I joint venture with them? So, Amy, this is where the story gets crazy. These two companies, once competitors, join business. They say, I've already got somebody who's going to buy us on the other side. Another key component.
Yeah.
They do the deal. The company comes together. They do share splits and all this. They get 92%. Ding, ding, ding. They've met the trigger. Now, for some context, they're doing 40 million in turnover, 2 million profit. It's a 5% margin. It's fairly lean in business, right?
Totally.
It's not very strong. They head back over. They sit in front of the company. The company go 42%, 2 million, but they wanted the 90% because they could see that it's going to turn into billions. They sold it for 855 million cash on a business doing 2 million. Now,
not too shabby at all.
Not too shabby when you can walk away and pull out 855. My real value in the point here is joint ventures can be very broad. You can put your hammer on someone's front seat, or you can start to think strategically and go, why compete, collaborate, and go do something amazing, right? So hopefully that'll give the audience some scale and some understanding that joint ventures aren't just for sole traders who want to do some stuff. Yeah. This is how big business is won and lost. You know, and this is where you start to get into mergers, acquisition. It's just a sophisticated joint venture product. Yeah. So I wanted to share that to give you some idea on the way that I now look at deals. And I think that's an important piece for people to understand.
Absolutely, because I think, you know, you can take it up that one notch and just look at it from all different angles and think bigger than just like, okay, you know, you're going to look at, you know, the sales and marketing department, you're going to bring me leads, and someone else is going to help on the delivery side. It's actually much bigger than that. It's like, how can we actually work together to really dominate in the market and dominate in the space? And I think that example of Menulog is a really prime example of that. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's awesome. And so I guess just on that as well, when it comes to actually deciding on who is the best person to joint venture with, whether it be, you know, sole trader as an individual, or you're looking at, you know, maybe some different companies like Menulog did to think around, okay, strategically, where am I best placed to start looking for joint ventures? What are some of the things that you would look for, and perhaps, you know, that other business owners would look for when it comes to a joint venture partner? Like, what do they need to sort of have for them to be even kind of considered as someone that, you know, might be a potential joint venture partner?
Yeah, look, and again, not knowing your audience, it's hard to tailor a joint venture specifically.
Yeah.
However, let's start on the lower rung for now. Let's not talk hundreds of millions in deals just yet.
Yeah.
But most people aren't expecting you to come through the door and do a joint venture. They're just not. Most people who reach out to people on LinkedIn are now trying to sell people, right? So you've got to be able to, first and foremost, position yourself as an expert in your field. When you think of, your particular niche, do people think of you or do they think of somebody else?
Yeah.
Everyone today, from this point on, if you're not, should be growing their personal brand to elevate their position in the marketplace as an expert, because you're going to need it at some point. So when you knock on someone's door, they're not expecting you to say, hey, do you want to collaborate? They're expecting you to say, do you want to buy this? So you need to be able to understand, do a bit of diligence on who you're wanting to do business with. Have they ever done joint ventures before? Have they ever collaborated before? Or they've just been head down, bum up and, ticking away at 5 to 10% growth year on year?
Yeah.
Once you identify somebody who may or may not be, you don't know if they're going to be a great joint venture partner at this point. You need to build or craft a pitch that's going to entice them to at least explore it further. Here's the thing. Most people are going to scratch their head and go, what's this joint venture? How does it even work? I've never done a joint venture. So you've got to make it really, really simple. I would love to collaborate with you. We are amazing at this part. You guys are clearly world-class at that. If I can make it easier for you to bring in more business, is that something that would interest you? Right? Your language, your tonality, how you pitch this.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. If you're a business owner and you've got somebody wanting to bring you business strategically with ethics, win, 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 right? Then they will drop their guard as long as you pitch it authentically and humbly and in the right way. I'm telling you now, this is the biggest thing. Most people who I ask to do joint ventures with say yes. And that's not because I'm great. It's because I understand how to pitch the value of my business, but I also know how to pitch the value of the business that they're not seeing, right? So
that's a real skill in this. So I'm glad you identified that, Michael, because I think for a lot of people, they're just seeing the two sides of it and not the third win. So I think that's a really, really good point for people to write down.
Yeah, the third win. No one thinks about the third win, right? You should be thinking about the third win more than your own win. Because here's the worst thing you can do in a joint venture. Get in, it goes well, and it stops.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing, right? They're hard to pull off. They can take months. It's difficult. And my lesson is bring the third person, bring the joint venture partner more value than you're going to get. Because if that channel keeps producing, if that well keeps producing water, that will just continue on and on and on. And now we're spinning plates. That one's spinning by itself. I can go over here and start spinning another plate, right?
Yeah.
So think about your partnership. Think about your partner. Think about how this can be a decade-long run. Think about how you pitch it. Think about the value you're going to bring. Think about it getting to a point, and this is a crucial part. Don't necessarily think about it's just a win-win, but it's a no-lose situation.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
A no-lose is better than a win-win. Because a no-lose is, you see this pitch, you sit there, you scratch your head and go, we can't lose on this. We have to do
it. No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, right? So, I'm all for the win-win-win. But when you're pitching, pitch a no-lose. And that's where joint ventures happen. They happen effortlessly. And it's okay if it's a 50-50. If they get 60 and you get 40, they're super happy. There's hopefully a 3 to 10 year run where that deal continues.
Yeah. I love that, because it's taking that long-term approach as well. I think sometimes in business we can get into the daily grind, and it can feel like you can feel a little bit impatient, sometimes. And so I think what I loved about your approach there is really sort of taking the time to craft that offer, craft that approach, really think about it from like a three-dimensional standpoint before you even reach out, right? Because a lot of the time when you're reaching out to partners, when you're reaching out to different people you want to do business with, you've really got one shot. And so I think that's, you touched on the positioning and building your personal brand and being the expert in your space. And, that's what I'm big on teaching my clients as well, on especially on LinkedIn, is how are you going to stand out so that you can get that one shot with someone? So I think, that's a really important point.
Yeah, no, look, once people understand the power of joint ventures, you will never stop.
Yeah.
You'll never let it go. My longest standing joint venture is 26 years running at the moment.
Yeah.
It's with Tony Robbins. We've had this joint venture going for a long time. It's done nearly 900 million in revenue. It's impacted 4 million people, and it just works. There is such a good synergy on both sides, and it wins. Not because somebody takes too much, not because the other side's lopsided. It just works. We're super happy. He's super happy. That's what a joint venture should be like.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And the key, it seems, throughout this conversation as well, is that relationship building and that long term, and having the patience and really thinking about, putting that other person first, even above your own interests as well, which I think is really cool. So, conscious of time, Michael, we could talk about this for hours and hours. Like, I'm so enthralled in this. I think it would be great. But for people listening to this, like, what's sort of one big takeaway that, if there was something that they could go and walk away from listening to this and actually go and really do some thinking about, what's sort of one big takeaway that you'd like to suggest for people that are considering joint ventures?
It's a great question, and unfortunately there's not a silver bullet as one little thing to say. This is going to sound like a plug, but it really isn't. Is that I put together a 50-page document on all the joint ventures I've done and my whole philosophy. I'm happy to give that to you to send out to all your people completely free. I only say that because every joint venture is different. We talked about the Mercedes and the massage. We talked about Menulog. People need to understand what phase they're in. What is it? A strategic partnership? It is a joint venture. Many, many different ones. So, Amy, if you're okay, I will send to you this joint venture playbook. It showcases my 1.7 billion in revenue on joint ventures I did that only went through my merchant. I've done joint ventures where I haven't collected the money and the partner has. But on my side, I've collected 1.7 billion from these joint ventures. So I think that might be a great resource. I don't sell anything from it. There's nothing. I just did it to maybe help other people get started. That might be the best next step for some people, to see what life cycle they're in. I mean, it depends. If you've got 50 people in your business, you've got to think about things differently, right? So hopefully that resource will help the audience get some value. But the other tip I'd give is, I think you need to make sure you have a joint venture ready to go for Q1 next year. Don't think you've got to sit there now, listen to this is great, but I've got to get back to the grind. The reason that I've had hundreds of joint ventures is because once you get one up and running, you can let go of it. The systems, the processes work. Go put another one together. So you've got to get started. If there's anything to take away from today, is that you have to trial, test, get out there, and at least get your first one up and running.
I absolutely love that. Don't just be on here and learn for the sake of learning, guys. Actually go and implement what Michael is teaching here tonight. And thank you so much for so generously sharing your expertise in this space. I knew out of everyone in my network, you were the absolute perfect person to bring on for this topic. I couldn't think of anyone better. I will absolutely drop the link into that the resource that you shared around the joint ventures. with this video. And also, if anyone wants to send me a message, I'm happy to send that through for you as well. And where can people go, Michael, if they're wanting to follow you, follow what Success Resources are doing? I know you've got some awesome virtual events and things always happening. So where can people go and look out for you?
Yeah, look, LinkedIn's my favorite sort of place to hang out. I always respond to every DM, or pretty much every DM. So yeah, LinkedIn on here at It's Michael Lane is the handle. If you've watched this, message me and let me know that you're a part of Amy's, and if you need help with joint venture, I'm more than happy to give you a couple of pointers. But I think that the joint venture playbook will be the thing that I think will help most people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure to include that in the comments. And thank you so much, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone that has joined me today. I would absolutely love to know, drop in the comments, guys, what has been your biggest takeaway from today? I'm sure Michael and I would both love to hear that. So you can join me again for another episode of the Person Behind the Profile series coming up next week, and I will see you all then. Thanks, Michael. Bye.
Thanks, Amy.